Once again, folks, thank you so very much for tuning into the Sanju Baba Show. Really appreciate that, and thank you so much for your comments, your calls. I appreciate that a lot. And as I have mentioned to you earlier, this is a very busy time for our candidates. Elections are coming up, barely about a week left, 4th of November. So today I have got another great gentleman with me who has been running as an assessor for his last term and rerunning back again this year. And with me this morning, I do have Dave Packer. Dave, thank you so very much for stopping by the studios.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Dave. So, Dave, how has the journey been?
It's been interesting. I like the job. You never know what's coming through the front door, which is always interesting. And I think we do a lot of good for the Bannock County, and we help a lot of people.
Okay. So you have been a realtor, Dave, for quite some time.
I've been a real estate broker for 25 years.
25 years. And in the last elections, you decided to become an assessor, run for an assessor, because you've been in this business for so long.
Yes.
And you believe that you understand your business.
Yes.
So what have you really accomplished in your last term that you are proud about?
Well, I think the easiest thing you can probably put your hat on is that this year we had 11 people out of 39,000 who appealed their tax assessments.
Okay.
That gives us an approval rate of almost 99.99. We're not perfect, Sanju, but we're close. So just having the fair and balanced evaluations, I think, is a great thing. You know, there's been other challenges. In the last 4 years, we've had 4 or 5 people retire that have been there for 25 years. And it's a great brain trust that we had to replace. And fortunately, we were pretty lucky with finding people to replace them and did a lot of interviewing. Most of our jobs have about 70 applications for every job. So
the challenge that you have taken up after a realtor as an assessor, do you think that was the right move for yourself?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think I'm doing a lot of good for the Bannock County. I think we're helping a lot of people. We've balanced a lot of our evaluations. We've helped business. We've been involved with new businesses coming in.
So let's talk about the balancing of evaluations that you have said a couple times already. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, how
did you find that?
How I really got started is that I bought a property in 2006, and I'm sure a lot of people have probably heard about that. Well, the first thing that happened that first year is my valuation went up 98%. With that kind of an attitude, we're not going to keep anybody in business in Pocatello, and the chances of getting some new business in here is probably rather nil. So I figured it was time that I got involved in seeing what this problem was. You know, so. And not only did it affect me personally, but it also affected every other business that's in Pocatello.
Since you took your office, Dave, very recently and about a couple of years back, you have been accused that you have been also running your real estate business while you're doing your office work at the county. What's your take on that?
Well, I do have a real estate license. It does give me access, and it keeps me informed of what the market is really doing. This year I sold 2 homes. One was to my daughter and one was to a personal friend, so I don't exactly work full-time as a realtor.
So is that legal if somebody has a state, central, county or federal job?
Well, until the election this year, nobody's ever questioned it. If I was selling real estate for the county, then that would be an issue. But
that would be a conflict of interest.
Yes, but where I don't sell real estate for the county, I don't think that's a
But you could do real estate business for yourself because you do have the license. Is that what I'm understanding?
And that's the other thing why I kept it. You know, if I want to buy something, you know, it saves me at least 3% right off the purchase price.
Okay. I have recently also read in a couple of newspapers, in our local newspapers, as well as spoken to some people, that you have raised property taxes, which was not supposed to be in 2011 and 12 when the market rate was very low. Assessor Packer came in and he did not listen to us, he did not want to talk to us, he just raised the property tax. What's your take on that?
I don't think that's true. I don't think those people are out there, and if they are out there, they need to come talk to us again.
Have you raised property tax in your term?
Not really. There has been certain areas, you know, but the certain areas, I mean, property taxes is always evaluated by what sells.
Absolutely.
And we have the city broken down into about 7 different areas, you know, so that you're not comparing you know, the Satterfield area with the west side.
Sure.
You know, so everybody has their own section, and those are the properties that they are compared to. You always want to be comparable properties when you're doing your evaluations.
So how do we compare really Satterfield with Chubbuck or with
We
Pocatello
take the area
South?
that is in. That's why I say we have about 7 areas within the city, and we're pretty much within the county, you know. And in the same sense, you can't evaluate a piece of property in McCammon to compare it to something in the Satterfield area either, you know. So you look at the properties in the area, seeing what's selling, and if the properties are going up in that area, then you will get a tax increase. You know, it's just like this year, we're tracking about a 2% increase. But
Which area is that? Overall? Okay.
But usually in the fourth quarter, things start to go down again because people quit buying properties and that sort of thing. So it's probably going to level off, and we're going to probably be right where we are next year, where we are this year.
How do you really take the 2% when the businesses are not here, the economy is not growing, people are struggling over here as far as growth?
Well, you always
how can our
you always
property
have
go up?
pockets, Sanju. You know, and in the business climate is really curious. In Pocatello, we have about a 20% vacancy factor in strip malls, which is quite high. But in the same sense, we have seen people who have paid a tremendously large amount of money for business properties. There's one out on Yellowstone the other day that sold for $80 a square foot. That's huge.
I'm aware of that.
One of the big grocery stores paid about $58. That's probably fairly common, and that's probably where it should be. You know, when we see something like $80 a square foot, we're going to throw that out as an outlier. We don't throw that into, you know, to raise everybody's taxes. You know, it's not our job to raise everybody's taxes. It's our job to make sure that you stay in business so you can pay your taxes, not only this year but next year.
Absolutely.
But, you know, you have pockets like that drive the cost up. You know, it's just like going down to the bus garage where the city bought the bus garage. You know, that property sold 2 years prior for $375,000. But when the city bought it, they bought it for $1.05 million. You know, but there's different circumstances, there's different financing.
And that was within 2 years. The value
Within 2 years.
The value has
now, if
gone
we
down.
took that same value and put it out to everybody on South Fifth, you know, nobody would be able to stay in business. So that's another outlier. You know, we're going to throw that out. We're not going to use that as an everyday occurrence.
So Yellowstone,
We mass appraise. We don't individual appraise.
in Yellowstone right now, somebody coming in and trying to start a business, they get very scared about their property tax.
Mm-hmm.
They're scared about the rent, they're scared about the value because they don't see enough coming in there so that they can start a business. So how do you evaluate a residential with the commercial and mostly the Yellowstone Strip?
We don't compare residential to commercial.
Right.
There is no connection whatsoever.
Right.
We're talking apples and
Right.
oranges here.
Right. So I'm saying
So-
residential, you're saying 2% growth.
Yeah.
Commercial, how do you
Sure.
how do you differentiate commercial?
Sometimes in commercial property, when somebody's new is coming in, they can come to the county and ask for a tax deduction. And if we feel that it is some business that would contribute jobs to Bannock County, then sometimes they can go for an abatement.
Okay.
You know, the new company that come in yesterday, Amy's Kitchen, they came here because they had a tax package that was pretty reasonable to them, and that's why they came. I mean, they did have other sites, but the time we put the tax package together for them, coupled with the tax package that the state put together for them, we came in on top. I mean, they could have gone to California or they could have gone to Oregon, but we had the best deal for them. So that's
So when
why
the
they
decision
came
is
here.
made, is it the county and the state, they sit together and
Yes.
decide, or just Dave Packer decides that?
The Dave Packer is on the bottom line.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
so
you do have a board who sits down and decides on either
people like
increasing
Bannock
or
Development,
decreasing.
they do that. The commissioners actually have the final say
Mm-hmm.
on abatements. I do get them all the information they need to make the decision, but it is their call. In Heinz' case, Heinz contributed $1 million worth of taxes to the tax base of Bannock County
Over the years.
per year.
Per year.
Not over the years, per year. And we've lost that. So it's time to make that back up, you know. And what we've really done is that we won't get the $1 million, but we'll get a partial payment on that. But if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't have anything, you know. And what's really exciting about Amy's Kitchen is that they have the potential to grow.
Where are they out of?
They are out of California. So
they're a pretty stable company, you think?
they are going to have sales of just under $500 million this year.
And how many are they planning to hire?
They are going to hire about 200 right off the bat, and it probably will grow to about 1,000 before they're done.
So now that we have welcomed them in the city, in the state, and the county, so in the future, after a year or so, is the assessor's office going to say, hey, you've been here for a year now we're going to raise your tax back to where it's originally supposed to be?
No. They will grow gradually, and as they grow, we'll grow. You know, the abatement that they have is for 5 years for what they put in this year.
That's
and what they put in next year will have another 5 year after that. And what they put in the third year will have another 5 year after that.
So when you say the growth, how do you define growth? Is it
they are going to invest so much money this year, and that'll get the abatement for this year.
Okay.
And then whatever they invest the next year, that'll get a second abatement for whatever they put in the next year. And the same with the third and the fourth and the fifth year.
I see.
So
where does our county line stop, Dave, from Fort Hall? Fort Hall is not covered, right?
Bannock County does have a section of Fort Hall.
It does.
And it runs clean down to Swan Lake, which is south of Downey.
So when you go there, I have spoken to some residential people over there, and they are, part of them, I think they're blaming that, okay, they're here in the Fort Hall, they should not be taxed because on that borderline.
Yes.
But they are taxed.
They are taxed. What happens out there, if you have fee ground, which means ground that you can buy or sell at will, that becomes county property. It does not belong to the reservation anymore. And at that point, it wouldn't matter where it was sitting within the county, it would be taxed the same. And we do tax those properties out there because they are fee property. In the same sense, they qualify for all the benefits. You know, they get the homeowner's exemption. You know, if they had tax issues, they would get a circuit breaker. You know, things like that.
So how much does Fort Hall Federal take over that property? Do they get any part of it?
No, because it's not federal property. It's Bannock County property.
Okay.
In the past, they always just exempted them, but when I got there was nothing in the law that says I can give an exemption to anybody. Exemptions come from the county commissioners.
So there I go. Okay, so earlier it was exempted.
They just exempted it. They had no reason, they had no authority, but they did it. And, you know, I try to run an office that is lawful, fair to everyone, and equitable to everyone.
Did that bring in any conflict?
Well, sure. If you haven't been paying taxes for a lot of years and all of a sudden you started paying taxes.
So how did that work?
We didn't go out and just blanketly do it. What we've done is as people have sold property and they bring it into us, then we go ahead and put the taxes on it when they sell the property. We have not hurt anybody who's living on the reservation in the past. It's strictly been for the people who have sold property.
Okay. How did the educational institution really, how much did you help the educational institution as an assessor financially?
For my own personal education, you mean?
No, our school district. A school district.
Oh, how much do they get?
How much do they get?
That's probably a clerk's question because they actually write the check. I would say probably about, I really shouldn't say because I'm not really sure.
Okay, but
they get the lion's share. It could be somewhere between 35 to 65. Have I done better?
Have you done better since you took over the office and before?
No. What we do in our office is strictly assessment.
Okay.
We don't collect taxes. We don't spend the money. Where the schools come in, we fund in Bannock County 32 different taxing districts. And that's 6 school districts: City of Pocatello, City of Chubbuck, Downey, Ingham, McCammon, you know, all of your cemetery districts, all of your fire districts, you know, like Marsh Valley is one of the ones we do, and the School District 25 is another one we do. And then down south there's a few real small school districts that have just minimum area in Bannock County. But we do fund all of that.
Okay.
And, you know, that question should probably go to the clerks, and we can pull up the levies and see where they are.
Dave, it'll be quite an interesting fight, I think, this coming elections that I'm looking at. And where do you see, what can you tell us to the community that you have really done for the community, and that they should believe in Dave Packer and say, yes, he is our leader and he can do this and he can help us save taxes, and he's working towards it?
Sanju, when I took this job, we had 4 offices on 2 different floors in the old courthouse. Nobody knew where anybody was. Nobody knew what they were doing or not doing. They couldn't share any of the equipment, you know, because every office had to have their own copiers, their own printers, and everything else. So when I got there, we had a chance to move across the street. And we, as a office, got together and we figured out what we were going to need, what we should do. One thing that we did in motor vehicle, our old office only had 4 workstations and 1 cashier. Mm-hmm. When we moved across the street, we built it with 6 workstations and 2 cashiers, which mean that we were 50% more able to serve the people of Bannock County than we were before we moved.
So you hired more people?
No. We only had 4 windows, so we had the people.
Okay.
But we only had 4 windows that they could work at, so they had to take turns.
I see.
So we did not hire any new people. We just hadn't made it so they would have places to work. You know, I don't know if you remember the old office, but they had the workstations up front, then everybody had a desk in back. Mm-hmm. Your new only has workstations right across the front, and that is their desk. They don't have to get up and go anywhere. They're already there. So when people walk in, they're there. The other thing that we found out there is that people were having to take time off of work to come do business with us, because most of them work from 8 to 5 anyway, which was pretty hard for people. You know, I don't think anybody should have to take time off of their job to come do business with the county. So what we did is we extended the hours from 7 in the morning till 6 at night. We now service 500 people every month between the hours of 7 and 8 and 5 and 6 at night. People love that.
And you're also saving the Fridays?
We also save Fridays. Okay. What we found is we're not heating and cooling the building for 5 days. We only do that for 4.
4 days.
If there's anything that maintenance-wise that needs to be done, it's always done on Friday. You know, so there's nothing that ever disturbs the office. We haven't had 1 bit of overtime since we went to the longer schedule, because after you've been there for 10 hours, you don't want to stay any longer, which just saves the county a lot of money too. And it also frees up people. If they do need medical attention, dentist, whatever, they do that on Friday. They don't take time off to go. So we've been able to service a whole lot more people. You know, I've had people come in and tell me that they come into my office and buy a license plate in less than 2 or 3 minutes, and they love that.
I think it's an incredible idea. Did this idea come through you, 7 to 6? Was it your?
No, it was because we did the surveys. You know, we said, what do you need? You know, in the old courthouse, there used to be some long lines, and sure. I would go down and talk to people, kind of placate them a little bit, because I knew they were standing in line, and we only had 4 workstations, and we could only handle so many people. And that's what the things that they were told me. They said, we need longer hours because we're having to take time off.
So what was the community response for not opening on Fridays? Because I stopped by a couple times on Friday and found it closed, and I was like, they're closed on a Friday.
Well, were you there by yourself, or was there a long line?
I was by myself, absolutely. So how was the community response?
Oh, I think it was good. They quite liked it. There's a few people who are a little upset about it, you know. We've had a few people from the site who work pretty long hours anyway, and they're off on Fridays, but we've made special arrangements to get their work done. The other thing is you can go online, and, you know, you can mail in your plate things, and you can go online and pick them up, and you know, there's other ways to do it too. You don't have to actually physically come through the door.
Let's talk about budgeting a little bit. What kind of budget structure has Dave Packer designed when he took over assessor's office?
We have pretty much the same budget that we had when I took over. It's gone up, you know, because we've given them raises over the years, and
how much raise have you given?
I have not given anything, because that's the commissioner's thing. You know, they're the ones that control the purse string. In the assessor's office, I'm a pretty independent person from the rest of the courthouse. The commissioners have a chance to corral me twice a year. Okay. Once at BOE, which is the when we assess, or the people have a chance to complain about their assessment, and once at budget time. Our budget runs pretty close to about $2 million, a little over right now, you know, but that covers anything. What we've done in the last 4 years is that I have not bought a new car, and in previous assessors always bought new cars almost every year. But what I found when I got there is that we have a pretty good sized fleet of 10 cars, but most of them only have about 50,000 miles on them, so they're not really what you'd consider worn out. But what we've done with that money is the first year we spent that money to remodel the office. The second year,
The present office, the annex
the
office.
prison office, yeah, that's where we got the money. So it didn't cost the county anything extra, and that money comes from what they call PILT, and that's what the government pays for the forests and things like that they own within Idaho. So, but PILT money doesn't usually show up in the budget. You know, that's kind of a bonus on the end. The next year we went out and we bought a real nice copier that's programmable.
Okay.
And the reason I bought that is because next year we're going to have a new computer system. And with the new system, we'll be able to take our 39,000 paper files, run them through this copier, and it'll copy, scan, and put everything on our server. And
So it'll be electronically filed.
it'll be paperless. The other thing, the next year we went out and we bought everybody iPads in our appraisal department, which they now have they've had it for almost a year now. When that comes together and we get the online with our new system, which will start just after the first of the year, they will be able in the field, no matter where they are, to pull any file they want to out of that 39,000 electronically with the iPads. The other thing is, you know, we now have a folder type situation, which is similar to this, that has little lines on it and little boxes, and when they go out to do the assessment, they fill in the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
With the new system, they'll have drop downs. But what will happen is that whatever changes they make will go directly into the file. We won't have to have a keyboard person back at the office, which is really driving me crazy is because sometimes we make an error, and that's usually when it's made, it's just transposed, you know, from time to time. But if you make that right from the field and it goes right into the computer system and right into the file, we won't have that problem anymore with problems with transposing from paper to the electronic.
So how much did it cost, all this transformation?
Oh, when we bought the copiers, I think that was about $25,000 to $30,000. We bought two of them that year. One was a new plotter that we use farm mapping, and we have a mapping system there too. You know, we have 3 mappers in our office, but we do the maps for Homeland Security, 9/11, state police, city police, fire departments, things like that.
So when you take over this season again, come November 4th, Dave Packer gets elected again. Now what is his next plan? Is he going
The next plan is to get the new computer system up and running.
And how much is that going to cost?
I don't think it will cost us anything. We've already essentially paid for it.
What else are you trying to buy for your staff? Or upgrade anything?
In the short run, we're going to see how much this. I have some PELT money that we don't have earmarked for anything, and we're going to see how much this computer system will cost, just in case we have to buy an additional server, you know, anything like that.
Is it really required for the county people to have another building on the south side of the city, or they can be in the same building?
You mean like with the commissioners and
Commissioners
stuff like that? The reason they did that, Sanju, is that, you know, our building is starting to get fairly old, and I think it's been around for almost 60 years. Well, the county's grown immensely in 60 years. I mean, you know, that's one reason why I had the issues that I had with the 4 offices on 2 different floors. I mean, that's just the way I was.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other place we could go. So when we got a chance to move across the street, we took it. You know, they were only going to move one department across the street. And I says, well, why don't we move it all? And they thought about it for about 3 minutes, and they said, that's probably a good idea. So we did it. But in the same thing that you run into, you know, we moved the motor vehicle department out, the driver's license department out of there and put it down with the county sheriff's. Well, some people thought that was odd, but the driver's license is under the auspice of the sheriff's department. So he's got everything he's in control of in one area. Some people thinks it's hard for Pocatelloans to drive all there, but if you're coming in from South County, it's a great opportunity just to come in and get your driver's license because you don't have to come all the way into the city, you know.
It was very confusing in the start.
Sure.
At the start, it was very confusing. People had to go back and forth here and there.
In the same sense, they
So-
took 4-H and the fair board and they moved it up to the fairgrounds. But that's essentially where the offices need to be, because that's what they have control of, is the fairground and the 4-H department and things like that. We took the VA and we put it back up to ISU Sanctuary, you know, because that's where most of the VA help needs to be done. I mean, it was really crazy to have some people go to ISU and some people come to the county, and, you know. But what we've done here is we freed up the actual county so that in the end the courts will be in the county and so will the treasurer, and that will be it. But what we've really done here is we haven't had to build a new county courthouse.
Yeah, but we have so much space over there available right now.
No, we
so what are
don't.
we going to do with it?
The courts have filled up everything.
They did.
2 days ago, we had what they call the BTA, which is where we have people who want to protest their taxes can go before a state board. They had no room in the county to have the offices open there. We had to go up and rent a room up at Ameritel. So, you know, the courts have grown over the last 60 years. They've taken up every space that's been done, and we're slowly going through and remodeling areas in the courthouse to put those people in.
What is the major expense coming up this coming season of your new office when you take over?
The expense in my
major?
office?
Yes.
I don't think so. I think we've balanced out quite a bit.
Okay.
I mean, eventually we'll have to go back and start buying some new cars, but I don't foresee that in the short run.
Do you use the county car?
I do not. If I did, I'd have to put it in my budget. See, so that's kind of a catch-22.
Okay.
Your commissioners are the only one that have cars, other than the police departments and stuff like that. And because I do have the cars, when anybody in the other offices need a car, like in the treasurers or the clerks and stuff like that, we let them borrow one of ours. So the other departments do not have vehicles.
Where do Stein stand next to you?
As to?
As an assessor.
Well,
what is his
when I've
experience?
checked his record at the county, he looks like he was probably an assessor at the county for about 4.5 months, which is not very long.
4.5 months.
Yep. He was quit or shown the door about 6 years ago, so he kind of has a little vendetta. It's really been surprising this election cycle is nobody asked about how the office is doing. Nobody's really checked into any qualifications. It's, it's all against me, But somebody ought to be paying attention to see what the qualifications are. And somebody ought to be paying attention as to what the office is doing.
Dave, you've been campaigning really hard this year, and I've seen it. You've been really pushing it very hard.
Sure.
You are little concerned. What concerns you?
Well, I think anytime you have anybody running against you, you have to be concerned, and you have to pay attention. A lot of misleading things have been said, and some of them have been directed at the office. There was an article a while back that my opponent said that he was going to bring competency back to the office. So is he telling my office they're incompetent now? My office took that one really hard. I mean, he's going to go back into an office where he's not wanted. And if you've got 30 people who don't want to work for you in the first place, that's going to be an uphill battle like nobody's business.
Well, I haven't spoken to him yet. I don't know if he has got any ground saying that. But, Dave, I would like you to tell our community in 60 or 50 seconds why Dave Packer as an assessor once again.
Dave Packer has done the job. He has the experience. He has the background. He has the will to serve the people of Bannock County. I think any time that any politician or any worker for the county does not have the desire to serve the people, it's probably time for him to move to something else. I'm here because I want to help the people of Bannock County, and I think I do a good job at it.
What do you think about the community? Would they work with you?
I think they have. I think they will. I have a lot of people who, sorry about that. I have a lot of people who have stopped and thanked me for different projects and that sort of thing. So I think they have worked with me. I think they've been, they like the open door policy that we have, and
How accessible are you for the community?
we're quite accessible. Right here on this phone, if
I
you
hear the
call
phone
my
ringing
office,
right now.
yeah, if you call my office and I'm not there, it call forwards to this. So I'm pretty much accessible 24/7, unless I'm in a business.
What is your
meeting
plan on raising or decreasing taxes in your next session?
Oh, I think
Next term.
the biggest thing right now is that we need to keep the taxes level. There are going to be issues this next year because, like the loss of Heinz revenue. Well, you kind of expect people who have a house to make up for that. I mean, nobody's too flush this time around.
Sure.
I mean, the biggest thing I can do is probably leave tax values right where they are.
Thank you, Mr. Pecker, for being here in the studios today.
Thank you, Sanju.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.